You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
That's right, folks, where reason meets reality. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Leibowitz, who is also producing so many shows it's almost impossible to count at this point.
Yes.
How many he's doing. What's going on all of your shows, Michael, during this week?
Well, we got the Jim Valiant episode out right now, using objectivity for self-improvement. That's fire. Everyone should definitely be checking that out, because anything with Jim Valiant is going to be fire. Also, Friday I'll have coming out, probably Friday, the episode with the epidemiologist. Friday, you and I have Vance Ginn on here. That's going to be great. I got an episode with the economist Gene Epstein. I'll be interviewing him soon about Adam Smith and why the Wealth of Nations is not the Bible of capitalism. And of course, I got Everyday Ethics, but I don't yet have a topic for today's show. So if anybody has a good idea, that'd be great. And tonight at 8 o'clock on Biblical Anarchy, I will be debating the proposition America's actions toward Venezuela is in the interest or are in the interest of the United States citizens. I, of course, will be taking the negative. I'm sure to win because I am a fantastic fucking debater.
When is that going to be?
I didn't need to use the expletive. I didn't need the expletive. You know what it is? I feel like with this face, with this shaving, that I have to now maybe use some swear words so I can get a little macho cred back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because your face is as smooth as a baby's ass. You're looking very young. You're looking very young.
So yeah, Persephone's definitely not happy with this.
You need the gravitas. You need the gravitas. If it's not going to be the gravitas through the facial hair, you got to do it with some kind of tough words, tough talk.
Don't get into some weirdo stuff. I could.
Wait a minute. When is the debate again? Tell me again, because I want to see if I can see this thing live.
Oh my God. It'll be live tonight at 8 o'clock on the Biblical Anarchy show.
8 o'clock Eastern?
8 o'clock Eastern. I'll even send you a link.
Thank you very much for that.
Can I tell you what happened yesterday? How pissed off I got yesterday afternoon?
Again?
What do you mean again? It's not like this happens
like a daily thing. It's a daily thing.
It's not a daily thing.
Off about something. You have a story to tell me about why you're pissed off every day.
Come on.
All right, let me hear it. Let me hear what happened.
Persephone, is this every day? Persephone says no. Mark is
no. You're just. All
right, I'm going to start my story. Would you please do me a favor and go to X and share the episode?
It's already been done, brother.
It has. I love how you act like you don't need to be reminded all of a sudden. Like I got that done. So yesterday, I get into it with Reese Hopkins, who I have considered to be a friend of mine, and he's the host on the PM Drive show on WTIC. And we got into a debate the other day about the constitutionality of the strikes on the boats and the deposing of Maduro. He's one of these conservatives that the constitutional originalism no longer matters, that sort of thing. So on his show yesterday, he is saying that Donald Trump never claimed that they were bombing those boats because the boats were carrying fentanyl. Yeah, he actually said that. Yeah. And so I immediately went and found the list of quotes where Trump did it, and I called the show. Now, instead of addressing the quotes and asking me for the source, which I could have given him immediately, he says, well, what's the date of the quote? But I have a new phone, so it's not so easy for me to go hitting links. And then so I'm stumbling around. I'm like, look, but it was just a tactic, obviously. So he then says, listen, find the information and I'll put you on hold. I'll bring you back. And I said, all right, cool. You know what I mean? He then proceeds to talk about how smart he is, how informed he is, and how all these fools are trying to call in and show him he's wrong. Now, I'm the fool that's on hold, right? So he's going on and on and on about this. This is supposed to be a friend, and he's being like disrespectful. I won't even say borderline. I waited and waited. He brought me on. He said, okay, Michael. I said, okay, nothing. Here's what we're going to do. public debate, you and me. I said, I'm going to expose you for what you really are.
Michael,
are you up for it?
I could have sworn I remember Trump talking about the fentanyl and cocaine spread out
all over the ocean. So hold on. So what I did was I got a quote from Truth Social about doing this, about bombing it because of fentanyl.
Yeah.
He says, oh, but that's a submarine. You mentioned boats. And I'm like, dude. And then I said, first you said, because then he wanted to get into why it's not on the indictment. And he said, so he just kept moving goalposts. Oh, what's the difference? Fentanyl and cocaine, big difference. And that's why Trump's been saying fentanyl. Then he went, well, the indictments from 5 years ago, that's why it's not on there. I said, the indictment's been updated. Oh, updated with what? I don't know. I just know that the people who released it, the Justice Department, have said it's updated. I come to find out they've included new people. They could have included the new stuff. But the whole thing was, it's just, I don't know if these people, these MAGA folks, are dishonest or just really buy their own Kool-Aid. It's a very difficult thing.
Probably a combination of the two.
When he ever said that Trump never claimed that there was fentanyl on those boats, and then he said, well, cocaine is killing as many people. No, it's not. So then he switched it to, well, they're not talking about overdoses. They're talking about gang violence over the drugs. That's not what they're talking about. And even if it was, I looked it up this morning, there's like 800 people died from gang violence due to drugs. The overwhelming number of drug deaths are from overdoses. But, and then the guy afterward says on the air, after I'm gone, and this is what pisses me off. When somebody has a platform like that and they use it to shut you off and then they want to keep talking about you. And then when we were off the air, he says, Lebo, that's what they call me on TIC. He says, Lebo and I have a personal thing and we'll have to address it off the air. Personal thing? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? So I sent him a text. I said, Reese, what personal issue do we have? And he says, we'll talk soon. And I'm like,
well, he didn't want to embarrass you, but it was going to be about your beard, about your lack of facial hair.
You think so? But he doesn't know about the lack of facial hair.
No?
No.
I think it would come across even on radio, to be honest.
But, the interesting thing was is he spent a good 10 minutes talking about how much smarter than everybody he is, how stupid the people that call and try to challenge him are, how he's the one that's prepared, he studies, and then called me arrogant. Because I called to show how smart I was. Now, mind you, I didn't call to tell him how smart I was, nothing. I just called with, here's the facts. But I'll tell you something about this arrogance thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've interviewed experts from, I don't know, economics, politics, philosophy. I've debated some of the, some very bright people, right? I've never once had somebody that was certain of their own intelligence that's told me, wow, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, or you come off as too arrogant. It's always somebody that wants to prove how smart they are and can't. Every single time. We got a super chat coming from Jenna Cleveland.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Jenna, very much for that early morning super chat. And thank you, Michael, for that rant. We needed it. I have to give our usual disclaimer. This show is not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party. If you want to know what the American Capitalist Party is all about, go to americancapitalistparty.org and be a part of the change, folks. We're making moves. We're shaking things up right now. We've got a chapter starting in Georgia pretty soon. We're talking to people who we think would be interested in becoming either party members or affiliated with our party, who are moving in the direction of getting going into office. So we're going to have some influence in the next few years that I think is going to be very powerful and very necessary. Michael, speaking of boats being blown out of the water and narco-terrorists, as they say, Maduro was captured recently along with his wife, who I guess is complicit in some of these crimes, along with his family too, I suppose. They were captured and they were brought to New York to be indicted on various crimes. which include narco-terrorism related charges. Now, is this a new thing? Narco-terrorism related charges? Is this a new thing on the books? Has it gone from drug dealing to narco-terrorism?
I don't know. I think you're guilty of mustache terrorism.
This mustache protects me from quite a lot. I might say, you know what's actually annoying about this mustache? And I can't wait for them to trim it because I can't touch it, because if I touch it, it fucks with their aesthetic, because they got to trim it all themselves. So it sort of grows out. I look like a Russian peasant right now. But the worst part about it being a Russian peasant is when you drink soup or you drink coffee.
Oh, God.
It literally gets all up in your mustache. It's all up in your fucking mustache. And I noticed something on New Year's Eve. My wife gave me less of a kiss than she normally does. And I think it was because I got this fucking bush on top of my lip that was just all over her face.
All right. I'm going to tell you a funny mustache story, and then we're actually going to get to the news. Okay.
Let's talk about Maduro after that. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when I first got out of prison and I first got the podcast, I was making some connections. I hooked up with this guy, Jan Helfeld.
Hooked up.
I ended up
hooked up like in the grinder sense, like hooked up.
No, that I saved just for you. But so he and I subsequently had a big falling out and are no longer talking. But nonetheless, I was able to interview this guy. I shared a lot of his posts. He has done some really devastating interviews with people like Nancy Pelosi, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, where he really exposes them. Jan Helfeld, that looks like Borat with the big mustache, right? So I'm just out of prison and I'm trying to be professional and I'm posting this stuff on Facebook. This girl I know from before I went to prison comes on my Facebook site full of philosophers and economists that I'm just contacting and asks about this guy. Does he give mustache rides?
My God.
I was like, oh my God.
What is the world coming to? Robert Nacier says our president is a barco terrorist. He's
Yes.
a barco terrorist. I agree with you. And I wish he would stop barking because it's so utterly annoying.
Look, Maduro is being arraigned in New York.
He's pleaded not guilty, by the way.
He's pleading not guilty. Probably in a couple months, Trump will pardon him because he just pardoned
Do you really
the
think
other guy
that?
from.
Do you really think that?
It wouldn't surprise me. And I'm seeing more and more posts on social media about how this is really about proving that the 2020 election was stolen.
Wait, elaborate on that.
I'm not a deep diver into conspiracy theories. Once I see their bullshit, I stop. I learned my lesson in prison because they come up with, oh, but you got to read this. And every time you read something and debunk that, it's just, no, but you're missing this. And dude, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life reading your nonsense. You know what I mean? Chasing my tail. Guys thinking they're going to get out of prison on some clause where there's no enacting clause in the bill. Like, get out of here. But either way. But the claim is basically that Venezuela was somehow involved with rigging the Dominion voting machines to
really
cost Trump the election. And now they're going to get Maduro to confess and all that. And so maybe Trump offers them immunity. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't trust.
But this was
Trump.
already settled in court. This was already settled in court. I mean, it's,
in reality, but not in
out there.
Yeah, not in Magistan. Not in Magistan. If you go, Trump posts all, semi-regularly still about how the election was stolen from him. They keep repeating it. They keep repeating the lies over and over and over again. But back to Maduro now. So, yes, they bombed the boats because they claimed they were carrying fentanyl. Yes, they claimed that Maduro was sending over Tren de Aragua members to assault Americans. No, none of that was in the indictment because there's a difference between running your mouth on the microphone and actually going to court and saying it. That's all true. But now they're talking about a few things. One, running the country. America evidently is going to run the country. But the socialist vice president is sworn in, I guess, as the president of the country, and Trump has given her some laudatory remarks.
Well, only because she said she's going to do whatever the Trump.
Yes. The oil companies evidently are going to possibly get a subsidy from the United States government. That's what Trump said. They'll be subsidized, possibly.
Didn't that frighten you? Did that frighten you? That frightens me.
it doesn't surprise me. The whole goddamn thing
No, I didn't say
frightens
surprise
me.
you. It frightens
No,
you.
it all frightens me. It's
Yeah.
the whole context of what's going on, and the fact that the people who all my life screamed and hollered about the Constitution are now the very ones. This guy yesterday on the radio was mocking people who were making constitutional arguments as if they're just silly to make constitutional arguments. But they're also talking about going after Colombia, Mexico, Greenland, and they would be
And
talking
Cuba.
about going after. Well, no, because Cuba's going to fall of its own accord. Okay, Don.
Oh, that's
but
right.
what if it doesn't? They also keep citing the Monroe Doctrine, which they don't understand. The Monroe Doctrine, first of all, it wasn't legislation, so it's not law.
Wait a minute. The Monroe Doctrine was a document of love, Michael, just like the Declaration of Independence. It was a document of love.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about at this point.
You don't remember Trump being asked what his favorite passage was in the Declaration of Independence, or what the Declaration of Independence stood for, and he said it was a document of love. All right.
He says that about everything. He says that so much. But at any rate, the Monroe Doctrine was to stop European imperialism in the Western Hemisphere. Right. That's what it was for. It was not a license to go invade countries that you don't like or who you think are bad for you. That wasn't what it was. But, you know, they've got the entire MAGA infrastructure that stick up for this jerk. The conservatives are, you know, I question mark, were they ever, you know, blacks told me that all that shit was a smokescreen, that really a lot of that stuff was just racist policies. You know, the whole states' rights argument, you know, opposition to the civil rights bill, stuff that I would oppose as well, by the way, because of a lot of things in there, opposition to affirmative action, that this was really the constitutional limited government individual rights arguments were just a smokescreen for racism. I'm starting to think maybe there's something to that, because they don't care about the Constitution. That's clear as day. They don't care about truth. They don't care about individual rights. So what is it? What's their real motivation?
Power. And I think on Trump's level, it's something even more low and despicable. It's just self-aggrandizing.
You're not going to tell us about his again, are you?
His what? Trump?
Didn't you tell us that?
Did I talk about anything with below the waist with Trump? No.
Yeah, you have.
I have? No, if anything, I was just mentioning what the South Park people said about it.
Yeah, so you did mention it. You don't make me look like I'm crazy.
Look, in South Park, you have to admire the guy has absolutely no self-consciousness about having a micro penis.
Yeah, but you just made it look like I just invented this. You're the one obsessed with penis, not me.
I am not obsessed with penis. Listen,
you're always talking about, what are you talking about? This one's penis, that one's penis.
Persephone says, do you mean your beard doesn't grow overnight? Yes, his beard does not grow overnight, Persephone, which means he is prepubescent. I just want you to know that, because most men's beards do grow overnight. Not fully.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
There's evidence of it.
No, that's codswallop. No, that's codswallop.
From this perspective, I see not a single hair on that face. I know there must be a little teeny bit.
Listen. Can you hear it?
Barely.
You can hear it. You can hear it. There's definitely growth, but that's not relevant. The point I'm trying to make is that you referenced the Donald's nether regions in the past. I thought maybe that's where you were going now.
Was I saying it because of a power thing? Like people who seek power probably have penises. Okay, well, that's sort of known. And you know what I think also came up in that particular discussion was that they had discovered scientifically that Napoleon had a micro penis. They found that he had a gene aberration that made him have a micro.
Why do you know about Napoleon's micro penis? This is
came
weird.
Up in an article. I guess I read it in an article somewhere. And you know, the reasons people seek power are just sort of fascinating to me.
I read the same thing. I'm going to be honest. I read the same thing in Paul Johnson's biography of Napoleon.
Now look. I think the world's problems could be solved. Just all the violence that these people cause and chaos that could be caused if they would just do two things. get surgical implants on their penises so that they're somewhat larger, and have sex. If they did that, the world would be a better place. We wouldn't have to worry
That is
about
not the position. Let me just say that is not the position of the American Capitalist Party.
It is not the position of the American Capitalist Party. It's my own personal thing, but I bet you Nicolas Maduro is probably suffering from something similar. Otherwise, he would not have cheated on the election. He would not be torturing and murdering and imprisoning people, and he wouldn't be involved in the drug trafficking world. He would be a legitimate leader of a very effective, potentially effective state. Instead, he's languishing in New York right now, trying to act like he's a legitimate president and therefore immune from prosecution, which apparently our president is immune from prosecution as well. But of course, there's all kinds of controversy about that because he is not, in fact, the legitimate president. He stole the election, and he's done far more things, Michael, than trafficking in cocaine, weapons trafficking. I mean,
yeah. So Subby wants to know what he just walked into. Mark is laying out his theory of dictatorships, of what causes people.
My theory of dictatorship. And they do a post-mortem on this, right? There's a couple of dictators.
Post-mortem.
No, check this out. Just go, let me go for a while here. They do have the embalmed bodies of dictators in communist countries. They put them on display so that people can go by and worship them. Right? They've got the three cats in North Korea. They've got Lenin and Stalin. Right? Do they have Ho Chi Minh? They might have Ho Chi Minh too. They embalm these guys and they put them in these mausoleums, and then you can go visit them. They got to break through those things and do a little analysis, right? Get a coroner in there, take a check, do a measurement, and I bet you dollars to donuts that every single one of those guys has a micro penis.
So what's your take then on Jefferson and Washington? You're thinking they're Liam Neeson?
They weren't power hungry. They were.
No, that's what I'm saying. You think they're Liam Neeson status?
I'm thinking those guys are hung like donkeys.
All right. Can we get serious?
So look, first of all, Washington was the ladies' man. All right. So he loved to dance. He loved to be around the ladies. It's very clear that, he was carrying.
I've never heard that Washington was a ladies' man. What are you
He was a ladies'
about?
man. Of course, he was faithful to Martha, but he loved to dance and flirt. He loved flirting with women. He was a guy.
I thought you were going to say he's like me.
No, I wasn't going to go that far. But anyway, enough of this personal theory, which the American Capitalist Party does not buy, by the way. This is just my own personal theory. And I think we'll find people in the chat who might agree with me. Go ahead and
we're going to set up a debate between Mark is going to debate someone with a micro wiener, and they're going to discuss this.
Well, that would be Nick Fuentes, and we can't give Nick Fuentes any air, okay? There's a reason a 20-something-year-old guy is a virgin, okay, and hates women. It's because... Well, let's face it. We know what's going on with him. But let's
Nick Fuentes?
Oh, fuck yeah. Come on.
Have you seen the pictures of him with Dave Smith, like next to each other?
Two micro penis guys. Micro penis guys. Look, guys, tell me in the chat whether you think my theory is true or not. It's not scientifically proven. It's just a
hypothesis at this point.
It's a hypothesis at this point, but some of your impressions can potentially prove it and take it beyond the hypothesis.
Chandler says that he exudes flirtation and manliness, and I can attest to that because I had the opportunity to spend some time with Chandler in San Diego. He definitely was flirting with me, especially when I took my shirt off in Little Italy in San Diego.
Exuding manliness doesn't necessarily mean flirting with you.
No, he says he exudes flirtation and manliness.
Oh, flirtation, but okay.
Yeah.
With all genders. Okay.
Yeah, and he was flirting with me. There was definite, there was something going on there. I didn't want to mention it. All right, can we get to some stories?
So of course, Delcy Rodriguez is now taken over Venezuela. She's a leader there, but she seems to be amenable to whatever Trump wants to do. Of course, fearful for her own life and safety and well-being. So she claims that she's going to be a lackey for Trump, whatever Trump has in store for Venezuela. It's anybody's guess. Whatever positive things he wants to do, reigniting the oil industry, rare earth metals, all that stuff is going to take many, many, many years to build up the infrastructure that will make Venezuela even remotely profitable for us and for the Venezuelan people themselves. So this is something that may or may not happen way down the line. And with Trump, you never actually know. So this is we just sort of touched on this, Michael, about Trump's threats to Colombia, to Mexico, Cuba. He thinks is going to fall because they don't have Venezuelan oil anymore. Now that that's cut off, that resource is gone. They won't have the internal resources to do anything but, I guess, rebel against the outmoded Castro regime. So he thinks they're going to go. But then Greenland is a particularly troubling problem. I mean, he went over there like he went to Canada saying, be our 51st state. We should take over Greenland. It has strategic importance to China, which in fact does have some strategic importance relative to China. But more importantly, for the energy, the rare earth metals, the thermo energy, and the stuff that they have there that would be quite valuable to America. But how is he going to do this? That's the question. There are claims that he wants to do it militarily and that he's not opposed to going in there militarily and trying to take Greenland. But that means he fights Denmark, and that means that our alliance in NATO is potentially kaput. He's been sort of struggling with the NATO alliance anyways, withdrawing American troops and taking away our funding, which I think is appropriate. They need to fund,
listen, here's the thing. I'm fine with withdrawing from the UN, with withdrawing from NATO. But I don't know how you get from there to let's attack Greenland. And by the way, their president, their leader is taking this seriously.
As he should. Trump
is it a guy? I thought it was a woman, but okay.
As she should.
Well, it might be a dude. We don't know.
Whoever it is should take it seriously because Trump has proven with his invasion of Venezuela that he's very, very unpredictable. And Michael, I think that's part of his charm to the MAGA people. The MAGA people like the fact that since he has no principles, there's nothing you can anchor him to. And he thinks that keeps the world community on their heels. And that keeps them at a disadvantage because they're constantly reacting to him and his unpredictable offense. I mean, I think it's actually terrible because it creates great uncertainty and mistrust in the world. And how can you exchange and trade with people over the long term if everybody distrusts what you're going to do? If they think that the next thing that comes out of your mouth is going to be some impulsive, crazy thing that threatens to attack you, how can you have a relationship with that person? You can't.
No, I'm trying to get in here to the Epoch Times article. I see what you mean.
Welcome to my world. It doesn't let you in a second.
These people are a pain in the ass. You go to click it, and they want this, they want that, they want the other thing. I'm through with it. Persephone says it's Prime Minister Jonathan Matzaballs. Matzfeld. I don't think
Matzaballs.
Yeah. Have you ever had matzo ball soup?
Jonathan Matzaball. Yes, I've had
matzo. Something.
I love matzo ball soup.
I want to find what I'm looking for here.
I used to go to Jerry's Deli after every evening class with my friends from acting class, and I'd have matzo ball soup. It's very healthy for you.
Oh, it's freaking great. I can't find what I'm looking for now, so we're just going to take Persephone's word for it. I don't know how I would have taken this Jonathan guy for a woman. I think there's a president also maybe that they were talking about. But either way, this is absurd, this whole Trump thing. And what about Marco Rubio? I just gave you a segue, Mark. You have to take it. When I give you a segue,
yes.
you
What about Marco Rubio?
You got the article in front of you.
No, the Epoch Times?
No, the article about Marco Rubio.
Is this the Don Rowe doctrine?
No. This is the Did Marco Rubio Lie to Congress About Venezuela article.
Here we go. Thank you very much. Yes. So let's deal with Marco Rubio. Now, you shouldn't have thrown that segue to me when I didn't have it in front of me. I was 3 articles up.
Thought you'd know what I was talking about.
Not necessarily. So go ahead. You start it.
Obviously not. Well, Marco Rubio evidently testified before Congress that there were no plans to go into Venezuela, in that the legality of it was questionable, and yada yada yada. But it turns out that they've been planning this for quite some time. So the question becomes: did little Marco lie to the big Congress?
And if he lied to the big Congress, what does that mean?
It means nothing because none of them have any testicles. So he, they'll just kiss his Cuban ass right after they're done kissing the big orange ass. So that's what'll happen. But the bottom line is people should have a problem with this. People should have a problem when the leaders of the country lie to them. Why they don't, I don't know. Like, I don't like being lied to. If you're lying to me, you and I are not going to be friends any longer. Right. But for some reason, when the orange idiot lies to him, they're like, oh, Donald, you're so dreamy with the bags under your eyes. It's so stupid.
Yeah, Michael, but it seems like the American populace has become so inured to the idea that politicians lie. They accept it now, as opposed to politicians lie, and this is not the state of things that we want to maintain in America. We want all honest, principled politicians. So fuck these guys. Let's get them out of here. Instead, they just accept it. They passively accept it, and they just sort of cynically go on and figure somehow we'll figure out a way to survive. Here's the exact quote that Marco Rubio said: "The U.S. is not currently planning to launch strikes against Venezuela and doesn't have a legal justification that would support attacks against any land targets." That was what he said. Of course, that was betrayed by what happened a couple of days ago when they did, in fact, attack land targets and did, in fact, put SEAL Team 6 into the compound where Maduro and his wife were staying and did, in fact, take them away. Now, what do you think about, Venezuelans all around the world, mostly in the diaspora, cheering this action? They're so happy to see Maduro gone that they can't see any potential long-term bad consequences from this.
Okay, I have a question from not in the chat, but from my Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
A friend asking me a question. The question is this: Clinton got impeached for getting his dick sucked. This fag gets away with everything. I'm not understanding what is going on here. Okay. Technically, no, that's not why Clinton was impeached. Clinton was impeached for lying about the fellatio in a deposition. So it was perjury.
At a time, by the way, when he was in a lawsuit with another woman for sexual harassment.
That's what the whole thing. Yeah, that's where Paula Jones was suing him, and then the question came up of the Lewinsky situation. That's why he was impeached, but he wasn't convicted by the Senate. Similarly, Trump has already been impeached twice, but he was acquitted by the Senate on both occasions. The problem is, it generally speaking, when your party holds office, they are not going to impeach you. That's just not going to happen.
Correct.
And if your party is in the Senate, even if you do get impeached, you're not going to get convicted.
Correct. Race Jacobson says the Pellegrino Dong dictator theory. I'm not sure I like the way that one sounds. We got to come up with a better name.
And put it on a shirt. Persephone.
This is merch. Yes. But I think they can do some.
We've got some great merch, by the way.
Hey, look, just speaking on the same thing, they did the same analysis with Hitler, where they discovered he had a genetic anomaly. So he
Dude,
not only.
What do you do? What do you mean? What do you go around looking up if they measured the wieners?
It just comes to me. It could be because I'm talking like this right now. My phone.
It doesn't. These articles don't just show up in my inbox.
Because I'm talking about it now, so it's probably listening to me and giving me these articles. The point is, he had one testicle and a micro penis. All right, the world would be better off had Hitler had a normal Johnson and a normal sex life. I'm just saying.
He had Ava Braun.
Trust me, there was nothing going on there. There was nothing going on.
He also didn't he have an affair with a cousin of his too at some point?
He probably did, but I don't know about that. All I'm saying, Michael, is that there would be no need for the American Capitalist Party if people just,
had normal wieners. Can you
you don't even have to have a normal wiener. You could just have a normal sex life. Go ahead. Okay. What is that?
All right. Ian Gilmore is spot on. The reason we are in the current situation is because of the perfidy of the Republican senators who did not vote against Trump under the dishonest claim that the impeachment didn't apply to former presidents. Ian Gilmore is absolutely correct on that, by the way, because the argument at the time was that impeachment only refers to removal from office, but it doesn't. Impeachment, conviction after impeachment also refers to the inability to ever run for office again. So had he been convicted, he would not be our president now. And, maybe we'd have President Pellegrino. Who knows?
No, thank you. I prefer a million other things to the presidency of the United States. And by the way, anybody who wants to be president should be automatically disqualified, folks. I think everybody out there listening should.
I'm glad that's what you said.
Why?
Never mind. Okay, can we get to a new story? If you can't find the implication, I'm not going to explain. Persephone gets it.
This is from Axios. Rebuilding Venezuela oil fields will not be easy or cheap, analysis say. This is the article that talked about Trump wanting to subsidize all of this energy to the tune of, in the neighborhood, I think, of estimates going up to $100 million or $100 billion over the next 10 years, Michael. That means you and me are paying for these oil fields. Once again, where is all this money coming?
Well, I don't pay federal taxes, so I'm technically not paying for it.
I am. So where is all this money coming from? The guy that was supposed to shrink the deficit is spending more money in military excursions than I think probably any president before him, and is now going to spend billions upon billions of dollars of building up infrastructure that won't pay off for 10 or 15 years down the line. Where is this money coming from?
Well, as we know, I'm too poor to pay federal taxes. This does not apply to Mark Pellegrino, who probably makes up with his taxes a third of the federal budget, given how rich he is. So Mark is largely going to be subsidizing this. They should now maybe name these the Pellegrino oil companies, given how much of his money is going to be going to them. Maybe throw in a little, no, Razi, I don't know if he's over there. I don't know what he pays over here. He's in England. But the bottom line is that American taxpayers are going to be getting screwed to pay for this.
Yeah.
And what I find crazy, let me tell you a little something here. The people that I've heard my whole life talk about how incompetent government is are now like, yes, yeah, this is what we want Donald Trump and his boys doing, managing oil fields and doling out deals. Come on, people.
Yeah, it seems like the world vacillates between one of two opposites with respect to government. Either they are omniscient and control everything, or they are the worst, most incompetent people in the world. Now, of course, reality reflects the latter as being true. They are completely and totally incompetent, as I think the welfare, Medicare, Medicaid schemes going on in Minnesota, and the way in which that system is utterly and totally corrupted, Michael, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money being wasted and fraudulently frittered away. That should tell anybody how incompetent government is, and how they do not deserve to have a place at the entrepreneurial table. They don't have this they can't be in medicine, they can't be in any aspect of our life, because it just becomes an incentive for corruption.
Now watch, Mark. I'm not looking at the articles in front of me, yet I know there's two articles that I sent to you that could be segued into with what you just said. First of all, we could talk about the article about all the Medicaid fraud. And it's not just fraud, by the way. It's also overpayment. Mm-hmm. It's also signing people up who should not be on there.
Yep.
But the bottom line is it's happening to the tune of screwing who? Mark, who's getting whom? Should have been whom. Who's getting screwed?
We are.
Yes. The American taxpayer is getting screwed so that these jabronis can waste your money. They don't care. It's not their money. So if they overspend, who cares? If they enroll people who don't belong, who cares? If there's a little fraud, who cares?
In fact, Michael, I would say enrolling people who don't belong is actually good for them. They have the incentive to make the rolls bigger. The bigger the rolls are, they look more prestigious to the state and federal governments, the more money they're going to get. It's the opposite incentive than a free market. So it encourages this kind of shite. All the more reason to get it out of people's lives. Now, how would we do that? As capitalists, how would you get rid of Medicare and Medicaid? Because the Republicans, the so-called standard bearers of classical liberalism and constitutional conservatism. These guys are saying they will never touch these entitlements. You're going to get your Medicaid, you're going to get your Medicare, you're going to get your Social Security. The three main drivers of the debt, they're going to keep. And we've seen, yes, that's my gang way of doing it.
I thought it was a gang sign. I thought you were throwing up gang signs. I was taken back to listening to Boys in the Hood at that point.
Thank you. We've seen how these incentivize corruption. So how would we get rid of this stuff? Clearly, we couldn't get rid of it overnight because a lot of
you phase it out. You phase it out. You start limiting who can enroll. You start limiting the amount of payments. You open up markets. You deregulate. You lower taxes, and you start the process of moving towards an actual free society and not the clusterfuck of a rights violating monstrosity that we currently have. That's what you do. You start cutting taxes. You start getting people off of this. You start creating incentives to actually open up a free market, get people to disenroll and get into the free market. Stop all the stupid subsidies that are all over the place. The problem is the government. I mean, if you look at Medicaid, this has got to be the biggest nightmare you could ever hear of. It's a combination of the federal government and the state government. Like that is like something out of the creature of the Black Lagoon or something happening there.
Yeah, what is it? The federal government gives them a certain amount of money that the state government has oversight over and basically can give however they want, right? And they're incentivized to get more and more and more of that stuff, which of course creates a dependency of the state on the federal government. And this was something started in Roosevelt's time. When Roosevelt wanted to spread the New Deal, he made sure that he made states dependent upon the political patronage of the federal government, and that's how he solidified the New Deal as a national.
Well, Medicaid and Medicare weren't started.
No. I'm talking about the New Deal, but the idea of political patronage extending to the states, and the states then becoming dependent on the federal government for money, started with Roosevelt attempting to spread the New Deal throughout the United States, and it's never changed. Like all power that the federal government takes, folks, it never goes backwards. Unless you have some principled people in there who are willing to do the difficult thing, which is to make cuts. More than tax cuts, Michael, we need people to cut these programs and to start cutting them harshly, not just the rate of growth as they always do, but to really start making cuts. Unfortunately, there are 51% of the people of the United States are dependent on the federal government for some paycheck or another. They are literal constituents. And
do you remember in 2012 when Romney said that something like half the country doesn't pay income tax and that's 40% why they don't care?
Yeah, 40%.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of them and I do care. So Romney was wrong about everybody that doesn't pay taxes not caring, but he was spot on. He of course got maligned for it, and it might have cost him the election, but he was right. He was also right about Russia, by the way. And he's been right often about Trump, but now he's sold his soul and come out and say we need to tax the rich. So screw him. But either way, the bottom line is you're right that most people don't pay any federal tax at all. Federal income tax, I should say, because a lot of people, they do pay payroll tax. They pay this for the Social Security tax.
What do you think would happen if we threw out a flat tax out there, but that incorporated the 40% of the people who don't pay taxes at all? So you throw out
I'm not for it. Not for it. Nope.
As a means of exiting the income tax altogether.
No, because what you're doing then is you're raising taxes on 40% of the 40%. I don't want to raise taxes on anybody.
Zero taxes.
I don't want to raise taxes. I want to cut taxes. So why not make it a flat tax?
But you can't cut taxes with the rate of spending going on now. You can. I think you would have to.
Oh, you got to cut spending too. So, but what you're talking about then is you're going to, at the same time, you're going to cut their benefits. You're going to raise their taxes. That's going to make it more difficult for them to enter the free market because now they're going to have less cash.
Of course, the taxpayers who have been burdened with this, especially the 1% of people who have been burdened with paying for 40 to 50% or more of these
and looking at your tax returns again,
they are going to get a benefit, but the people who have paid no taxes are going to experience a slight rise and a cut in benefits. But it would be a fair tax in the sense that everybody would be paying the same percentage of their income.
I'm with Murray Rothbard on this. Taxation's wrong, and therefore there's no measure of taxation that can be fair. We need to phase it out.
I agree, but you have to.
But then you can't come up with these.
You have to phase out. It's
Yeah, but
like,
you can
look,
phase out without
all measure of social welfare programs are bad, but you have to phase them out because people are dependent on them.
Mark.
All
Yes,
measure.
you have to, Mark. Yes, phase them out, but that doesn't mean you throw around words like fair to apply to things that aren't fair.
Deeper with Diego says, start with deregulating the economy, which will make the cost of living cheaper. I agree with that. That's how people. That's how people that shrinking the government and to reduction that shows the people that shrinking the government and tax reduction is possible.
It's that Brazilian accent. He's got the Brazilian accent. It messes up the whole voice to text.
Yes, I believe deregulation would be the first thing that you have to do. Tax reform would be the last thing that you have to do. But I certainly see. I
don't know about that. I think you can start doing everything.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to eliminate. You couldn't eliminate the income tax, but you certainly could cut it as you cut programming. That's spur economic growth. Through the Laffer curve, you'd end up with some cash that would still be flowing into the coffers to pay for the still existing programs. And you just phase it all out. Right, Persephone?
So Laffer says, look, Tim Walz is experiencing, I guess, his political downfall because of these problems that are going on in Minnesota. What do you think of that? And do you think maybe this downfall might extend to somebody like Omar, who, God, I would love to see her brought up on corruption charges and kicked out?
Yeah, she's a schmuck. He's a schmuck. What I find dumbfounding and why I was really interested in this article isn't so much that he's having his fall. It's how he ever had a rise to begin with. Like, he looks older than what he actually is. So, he's not a good looking guy. He doesn't have charisma and he's not all that smart. Like, in his debates, he didn't come off as good. In his speeches, he doesn't come off as good. So, I don't know how he ever got there. So Rahazam says, Michael is wrong this time. The last thing you can remove is the taxes. Okay, I didn't say remove the taxes, Rahazam. I said cut. He then says, so let's start with the elimination and phase out of all the existing regs and socialist programs first. You can cut taxes and eliminate programs. I didn't say eliminate the income tax. The problem is, and I'm going to offend the entire audience right now, not the entire audience, but a large part of it. I get it. I read the same essay that you did where Ayn Rand said the last thing to go should be should be taxation. I know. That does not mean we can't cut taxes, especially when they're as ludicrously high as they currently are. When Rand said that, and the fact that she said it doesn't make it true, but I think she has a good argument. She did not say don't cut taxes. She said the last thing we should argue for is the abolition of taxes, not the cutting of taxes.
Absolutely. So, Michael, a U.S. attack on Greenland, this is from the Free Press, would mean an end to NATO. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned on Monday.
Yeah.
Frederiksen said that she
Hold on a second. Back up. That's who I was talking about. I probably said the leader of Greenland, but the actual leader of Greenland is the leader of Denmark.
Okay.
And that's who I'm talking about. So this was the woman I was talking about.
Okay. Mette Frederiksen is who you were talking about. Frederiksen said she...
Mark, the audience is going to make me go crazy today. What? Ian Gilmore says, if we cut taxes without cutting spending, the result will be a disaster.
We know that.
Nobody said to cut taxes without cutting spending. That wasn't part of the thing. But why does that happen?
People aren't listening precisely to what you're saying, Michael. It's probably because your lack of beard is distracting, so they're sort of paying attention.
No. Rahazam you're a great guest, a great audience member. He said, I didn't say you couldn't reduce the interim, but a lower flat tax Mark is talking about could be a step toward the removal of all taxes. So I wouldn't discard the idea. I do not discard the idea about a flat tax. I discarded the idea that a flat tax would be more fair. And I discarded the idea that you would be raising taxes on other people in order to make it more fair.
Now, remember, folks, this is just my opinion, Michael. This is not necessarily the opinion of the American Capitalist Party. That I feel a certain amount of joy at people who have been parasitizing the system for years and years and years and paying zero taxes while getting all the benefits that we pay for. Having to finally pay some taxes sort of makes me feel good. So, Michael, it's just a feelings thing for me. I'm sorry to say.
Can I get on?
I have my feels. Can I get on with
I thought you were going to say, "Can I have a hug?"
I'll take one.
I can't give it to you right now, but if you come to New York, which I'm hoping you do, I'll give you a hug. But maybe the audience should know that when I went, I was Mark's guest at a what are they called, Mark? They're cons, but there's a what was this con? It was in Boston.
What was it, Boston?
Yeah, what was the name of it? Boston Con.
It might have been. It was Boston Con. But
anyways. I gotta get a not a strudel. What the hell is that thing called? A lanyard?
A lanyard.
Lanyard, yeah, lanyard. I had to get a lanyard, and Mark made them put on the lanyard that I was his companion.
Now, I didn't make them do that.
It just happened?
Of course. They looked at the two of us and they said, clearly, Leibowitz is Pellegrino's companion.
And by the way, then I couldn't even go eat. They told me no. Mark didn't even get me the right lanyard that allowed me to go eat. So Mark had to go throw his weight around and say, listen, do you know who I am? This is my friend, and he needs to be able to have a sandwich. So they ended up letting me eat.
I never ever used the words, do you know who I am? I have never said that. But you know what?
It was implied.
No, never. Listen, I had a friend. Listen to this. I had a friend who was in some honky tonk bar in Sunset Boulevard, right? And he's walking with his beer, and Ashton Kutcher turns around and runs into him and spills the beer all over my friend. And my guy's like, "What the fuck, dude?" He's like, "You just fucking spilled my beer." And Ashton looks at him and says, "Do you know who I am?" And my friend says, "Yeah, you're the asshole who just made me spill my fucking beer." The good news is, after that asshole comment, because Ashton doesn't really have a reputation for being a prick, but after that, he bought my friend new beers, and they smoked dope together, and he was everything was all good. So, Ashton,
a language of true friendship: smoking dope and drinking beers. That's what we're here to talk about.
The reputation of Ashton Kutcher was saved by his after response.
Okay, we still have the Uber economic story to discuss.
Yeah, you got to discuss that one for me, but I want to finish with this one article.
Why do I have to discuss it for you?
You'll see in a minute. So look, Fredrickson says she believes Trump means seriously when he said he has an eye on Greenland following the U.S. military raid on Venezuela over the weekend. Now, Michael, this is scary, man. What do you think about NATO being up in arms about an invasion of? I think he would be overstepping his bounds. I mean, he's right now, to a lot of people, he's done the right thing by unseating Maduro. There's a lot of people that find that a rather decent move. And they can find excuses for it that you and I can't, that any liberty-minded person really, really can't. But they like it because a bad guy's out, and maybe there's going to be room now to fill the vacuum with somebody more democratically minded, more attuned to the United States, and more of an ally, which could have all kinds of positive effects with respect to hobbling China and hobbling the USSR and advancing liberty in South America. We could use more than one country in South America that's, moving towards liberty. But this, attacking a peaceful country that really doesn't have a military, so to speak, that really is not harming us in any way. They're a completely benevolent country, all for the sake of having bases so we can make sure we checkmate China over Greenland or exploit its energy sources. This is really going too far. I know you agree with this, but what do you think? What do you think NATO is even going to do about it? NATO won't even get together to fight fucking Russia, for crying out loud, let alone the United States of America over Greenland.
I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I don't know what happened, but obviously I'm opposed to invading Greenland. I think that it's lousy rhetoric. I think it's dangerous rhetoric. I'm not as convinced as you are that his allies would turn on him should he do such a thing. they have an amazing ability post hoc to justify whatever he does. If you look on Twitter, people literally post tweets side by side from MAGA influencers, where a year ago they were saying one thing and now they say something else. They have no shame, they have no character, and they don't care.
I mean, that seems part of the narrative for everybody on the left and right. You see, you could put side by side tweets from Schumer, 3 years ago and today, and they're gonna be contradictory. Almost everybody from each side, whatever the other side is doing, they are in opposition to, and that's the only guide that they have. If it means violating principles, so be it, because the real principle that animates them is beating the other guy, and that's it. And folks, if you don't want to live in that kind of world anymore, where you're a tool in a war between two political tribes, if I were you, I would start thinking about the American Capitalist Party as the alternative, the free market alternative, the one that principally stands for individual rights and inviolable property rights. Go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, like that thing, subscribe to it, become a member. Become a card-carrying member of the American Capitalist Party, and we can actually be the change. We are at a crossroads, and I think this is a time when the American Capitalist Party can really make some moves. We're endorsing a man for governor in New York who is awesome, Larry Sharp. I think everybody
he rocks.
Everybody who's interested in liberty, even if you live outside of the state of New York, you should magnify this guy's voice as much as possible. In my personal opinion, I know he wouldn't like this because he's more or less doing it as a I don't want to say duty, but it feels like, when the world is shit, somebody's got to step up and do something about it, and that's what he's doing.
He sounds like a superhero.
He sounds like a superhero to me, guys. So you guys should magnify his voice wherever possible. We have a thing called the Capitalist Digital Army. You should be a part of that. Magnify the capitalist voice and magnify Larry Sharp's agenda all over the country so that people know that he is a real alternative out there. We need that. We need that like crazy. And this sort of falls into this next thing, Michael, which I wanted you to talk about most of all. And I'll tell you a little anecdote too, how Uber broke the taxi cartel. Great. Did you know it cost like $120,000 at one point for somebody to get a taxi medallion?
I think they said it cost $1 million.
Oh, it might have been $1 million. At the time I first read about it, which was ages and ages ago, it was $120,000. Then it cost $1 million to get this thing. Yeah. That's an incredible amount of capital for somebody to try to raise to own their own freaking cab and to run a cab in New York City. That is prohibitively stupid. And that is
you can only buy them from other cabbies. They were first issued by the government, and then you have to buy them from other cabbies. And what ends up happening, and what the article references, is this transitional gains gap, where you go out and buy this thing for $100,000, but then there's a monopoly on it, so the price goes way up to the aforementioned $1 million. So now the cabbie who bought it at $100,000 has reaped all the gains, sells it to this other guy who now basically takes the hit. And with all the regulations and whatnot, the cabs had a virtual monopoly, but Uber came along and Uber's kicking their ass, and of course they're whining about it. They, everybody loves their government protection, so the cabbies want to be protected. I don't care. I'll take the Uber or this Lyft, which I've never heard of. I mean, I've heard of it. I've never taken one. I have taken Ubers. Us little people sometimes have to do that, Mark. Uber.
I take Lyft and Uber all the time, bro. And in New York City, when there's those.
When do you take Uber? Wait. When do you? Well, where are you taking an Uber? You have a personal driver that drives you around.
No, only to airports. Listen. and that's because the company's providing it. It has nothing to do with me.
That's not true.
That is
what
true.
You just said is not true. It's not true.
What?
Mark, you know that I've ridden with you with your personal driver that had nothing to do with an airport, right?
No, it has to do with the company, the promotion that's
okay, but you just said it was just to the airport.
No, I said no. When I'm going to and from an event, they have drivers there taking us to and from the event. Of course, I could come down if I had a car and go there. But when I go to another state, I don't have a car unless I'm staying there for a long time. Then
when you go to Toronto, are you taking Ubers or are they driving you around?
To the set, they drive me around. If I want to drive around anywhere else, I either have to rent a car or I have to get an Uber.
Okay, so it's a part-time thing.
But when I was on Murdoch, they gave us all rental cars, which is very rare but very nice. I wish they would do that more. Listen, this isn't the only thing, Michael,
That rich people get.
No, that caused problems in New York City. I remember when Airbnb came to New York City, the hotel lobby went insane, and they did everything
I can imagine,
to crush Airbnb. And I don't even know if you can do Airbnb anymore in New York. And we've stayed in a couple of great Airbnbs in New York before the hammer came down on them. And look, Michael, one time I was in Paris. My wife and I came out of the metro. We wanted to get a cab, and there was not a cab on the street. There were burning tires in the street, and there was some unrest. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? We found out from somebody the cab drivers were violently protesting Uber because Uber had come in and undercut their prices and was taking all their business, right? Good for us who need to get from point A to point B in Paris. Uber drivers were great. But then the taxi lobby came in and violently attacked Uber drivers' cars, overturning them, setting them on fire. Finally, of course, the assembly did something about it and made it so that the Uber drivers can't charge any less than the taxi driver. So basically, you're always getting the same fare wherever you go, whichever ride you use.
Let me tell you something. I drank my whole cup of water during this episode, and I normally don't do that. And I'm sitting here wondering, why the hell I'm still thirsty? Why am I so thirsty? And then I remembered I ran out of bread. So for lunch, instead of having my normal peanut butter sandwich, I had peanut butter and saltines, hence the thirst that I'm going through. Anyways, the capitalist thought of the day is this. We've talked about how they tax the rich. We like to have fun with Mark because he's rich. The bottom line is this. When that money is earned legally and honestly, we ought to respect it as lovers of capitalism, as lovers of freedom. We need to promote the type of society where people can move up that ladder and get rich, become successful, and be their best person. We want to get the government out of the way from people doing that. We want to stop the impediments. We want to stop the maligning of successful people, and we want to encourage them. For those who are getting rich by means of the government dole, fuck you. We don't care about you. But for those who are doing it rightfully, we love you. We honor you. We respect you. We need to continue to do so. And just for the record, Mark Pellegrino was not born a wealthy actor. Mark Pellegrino worked his ass off to get where he is. And as much as I tease him, he deserves all the success and every dime he's earned. Thank you, folks. We love you.
Thank you. I guess my question for the day will be about Venezuela. Do you think Venezuela will turn out to be a positive acquisition for the United States, or will it be more nation building that turns into a disaster? Please write your answers on YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe to this station. Remember to share it from YouTube to other platforms. We like the algorithm. We need that kind of interaction, folks, because the concepts of individual liberty need to go out to the world. Socialism is on the rise in America. It's falling everywhere else because those people have tried to practice it to their own destruction. But, you know, intellectuals and young folks in America still think it's a beautiful system. We'll see what happens in New York after the next 4 years. It's going to be a laboratory experiment in free markets versus socialism. I can't wait to see the outcome. I'm sure we know what it's going to be, but some people don't. And the rude awakening will be a very nice thing for us to report on a daily basis here. Well, we'll be here tomorrow, folks. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You have 23 hours to recheck your premises. Please don't be lazy. Please recheck them. And if you've got any statism in you, get it out. It's a bad thing. But also, my friends, be at peace. We love you. See you tomorrow.